It's the Elsa Show with Clay Novak. Conservative views on world news. Brought to you by the Wellness Company. Prepare for the unexpected. And Refuge Medical. And now, it's time for the show.
What is up, everybody? It's good to be back for another week of wild times in the news. It's semi-vaguely calmed down. I mean, it's not like wild, insane things like former presidents attempted assassinations and, sitting presidents being thrown overboard, but it's still crazy, right?
It's just wars and technology and, nothing major.
Run of the mill, just a day in the life. Oh boy. All right. We're going to get into it all right after this. How you been, Clay? What's new? Anything exciting?
Well, we are recording on Wednesday now. So Just for the general public, Elsa and I have decided that until the election, we are going to try and record as close to the deadline as we can, just because we know the news cycle has been so crazy. We don't want to miss anything. So
we don't want to be on the tail end.
Today is Wednesday, September 4th, and it is, I hate to put this out in public, but today is my 51st birthday.
Happy birthday. What? Oh my goodness. You're still a baby.
I'll tell you, my VA disability rating says otherwise.
Yeah, I hear you. It used to be like a really embarrassing, mortifying, insulting thing when the AARP started sending you stuff in the mail. But guess what, guys? AARP sends it out to everybody now. It's like it doesn't even matter. Yeah, so it's not a slap, and sometimes you get some good deals. You never know. I'll use it. I don't care.
I think they know our birthdays better than most of our families know our birthdays.
They do. They definitely do. So rude. That's okay. Any big plans? Anything exciting?
No, use the longer weekend to celebrate. Saw some old friends that I haven't seen in a long time and celebrated with family. So it was a good weekend.
That's so fun. You're a low key guy, right? No surprise parties or anything for you?
No, not so much. No.
Yeah, I'm with you. I'm not big on surprises. I don't like it because then you have to I get in my head. I don't know about you, but I get in my head did I look surprised enough? Did I, am I animated enough? It's too much pressure.
I'm the worst. My family will tell you. Before Christmas, I know every present before. I know it's impossible to keep a secret from me. I ruin everybody's surprises, so nobody tries anymore.
That's so funny. Yeah. And my husband is like a guy, he's like, I don't need anything. I'm good. If I want something, I just buy it myself. I'm like, yeah, I get that. I'm the same way. I get it. Definitely. And we truly are. I'm not one of those women that says one thing and then gets mad when he actually does what I said to do. I don't do that. I honestly don't. You can even ask him, if I say, Valentine's Day, I think I think they're very silly. And every day's a holiday with my guy, life is good. So we don't have to, designate. I know I want points from that. He's going to have to watch this one so I can get points for saying nice things. Anyhow, we got not nice topics to talk about. We had to kind of soften the way into all this. And this is not a segue at all. It's just abrupt. You can't even. There's no smooth way into this. Oh my goodness. And this is all of this, Venezuela, all the craziness that's been going on there, not crazy new. This is pretty wild though.
Yeah, it's an indicator, I think, for everybody in the United States. The thing to pay attention to, is the path that we are potentially heading down is the same. We've talked about this for weeks.
Yes.
Is the path of following Venezuela, a once very, very wealthy nation because of the oil that they have, down the path of socialism. And this is like the capper. I mean,
right.
President Maduro, rigged the election.
Yes.
Again. Right?
Again.
Won. Nobody believes he won. Nobody down there believes he won, but
no.
that was the outcome of the election. And, there's been some upheaval since the election, since the results were posted, and he maintained the presidency, and so he did what dictators do in socialist countries, is that they have their opposition leader arrested.
Right.
Sounds vaguely.
Sounds vaguely familiar. You're right. Yeah, I mean, not something that can happen here, though, of course, right? I mean, can't imagine that.
Yeah, I don't know. No, it is. Like I said, it's an indicator for us. I've maintained for a while that if they ever tried to put President Trump into handcuffs, that's when things would get bad. I honestly believe that, the goal for all of these 96 charges or whatever they total ended up being, the intent behind all that was to keep him from running for president, not to put him in jail. That was never the intent, because, that would not be well received by literally half of the nation. So, but Maduro doesn't care. And it's it's very lawless down there right now. And he did exactly that. It was a physical arrest, handcuffs, yards, and he got taken away and put into custody. I don't anticipate that ever happening here. However, there are rumors, and I don't know if I don't put any credence into this at all, but the rumors are out there that there are National Guardsmen, New York National Guardsmen in hotels in New York City in anticipation of his sentencing that's coming in this month.
Wow.
I don't believe that. I know there's some film footage, man on the street, kind of stuff, but I know that soldiers stay in hotels for thousands of reasons,
various reasons,
even in New York City. So I think that's some probably gross misrepresentation.
So it's certainly believable that they're there. The reason, not so credible quite yet.
But at the same time, how far fetched is it? How many years away?
I mean, considering where we are, it's not far fetched at all, right?
And how many years away are we? How many election cycles away are we? Is it 1? Is it 2? Is it 3? I think if we, the pendulum swings and it evens things out, right? I mean, we've had we've had a pretty consistent, 8 years of this, 4 years of that, 8 years of this, 4 years of that, or 8 years and 8 years, and it kind of evens itself out, and the nation kind of weaves back and forth.
Right.
We get too many, on one side, and it gets lopsided, and I think that's where we're at. So
that's where we're at, and and this is the most open and blatant socialist party, really. They're not. There's no hiding it anymore. There's when you have the vice president, presidential candidate say things like your free speech is a privilege, which is what she said regards to Elon Musk, referred to free speech or constitutional right to free speech as a privilege. This is just another part of their language games, really. You're going to see that word, just like you see joy. You're going to see that word crop up a lot more, because we know as socialists, they want to get rid of the Constitution. They think that it's just a useless, old, wrinkly piece of paper that, isn't relevant anymore. And they're saying these things openly. There's no hiding it. So scary.
I mean, you've got the quote from Governor Walz, one person's socialism is another person's neighborliness. I think the word that he made up.
Yes, that's exactly right.
And so again, they're not trying to hide any of this.
No.
And I've said this before. We talked about it last week. The First Amendment is under attack.
Right.
And listen, I understand that the Supreme Court, has ruled a while ago that that freedom of speech is not absolute. It's the whole you can't yell fire in a crowded theater kind of thing. I understand that, but that's not what this is. What being attacked is like you said, when Vice President Harris said that about Elon Musk,
right?
That's what's going on in France. That's what's going on in England, the UK. They're arresting teachers right now in the UK. Have you seen this?
No, I have not.
Yeah, they're opposing school policy, verbally, outwardly, education policy, government policy. They're opposed to it. They're being arrested. This is happening in the most civilized allied nations that we have. So,
It's just stunning.
Yeah. And we stand here and assume that that will never happen here, or at least some people do. But the reality is, I don't think, unless we have a course correction, I don't think we're too far away.
Yeah, I really don't think so either. And, and we're talking about things and, people always get this convoluted with free speech and our right to it. And, everybody starts yelling at each other, well, you can't say that to me, or you can't stop me from saying this, free speech, whatever. What we're really talking about is the government. The government should not be censoring people from their free speech. That's more of a protection of us from government, their overreach and obviously, as we all know, Zuckerberg has come right out with it and confessed. Yes, the Biden administration, he could not have made it any more clear. There was nothing ambiguous about his statement. Yes, the Biden administration pressured them to censor, misinformation and this and that. And it's election interference. It happened. There's the final nail in the coffin of confirmation that is a fact, and what's being done about it? Absolutely nothing other than I hope that the RNC and the Republican Party is working their tails off to make sure that these elections are protected. And they supposedly, I saw something from the RNC that they had 100,000 workers essentially ready to assist and watch the polls and do all of the things and to assure a fair election. So that sounds like they're on top of it, but boy, oh boy, it's scary, man. Because this is for real. This isn't, a joke. This is scary stuff.
Those 100,000 workers are going to be accused of election interference.
Of course,
that's going to happen.
Right.
Yeah. You'll have one. It's 100,000, so you're going to have some bad apples in there. I hate to say it, but it's going to happen.
It's just human nature.
One or two, half a dozen of those are going to do something dumb in and around election day. It's going to get caught on somebody's phone. They're all the accusations are going to fly, and that's what it is. It's accuse and counter accuse, and that's what everybody does. And right now, you've got an accusation came out today, I think, from the White House saying that the Russians have been interfering with this election already. Right, so we're same script 4 years later.
Yeah, they figure, well, it worked the first time for a while. Might as well use it again.
Yeah, for sure. People bought it, and so there's that, and I don't know. I don't know if there is a way anymore to guarantee a free and fair election. I really don't. I don't think that I think voter ID is the first step, and anybody who's against it is probably not for a free and fair election. Honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Voter ID, it should be the absolute given. It is so absurd to me that it's even a conversation, but of course it is, because of who we're dealing with here. That's the given. And to bring it back to Venezuela, this is the model to be very, very cognizant of and to study and to learn, and especially the time lapse, the time frame that this occurred that got them to where they are, and those parallels that we were talking about that, if you don't recognize them, your head is so far in the sand, nobody can help you. Right.
It is. It's, if you're ignoring it, it's willful.
Yeah.
Truthfully. Willful or absolute negligence.
Right.
That's all.
Yeah. If you're, what I would say to people is if you're allowing your hatred or dislike for Trump overrule your love for this country, you don't belong here. Get the hell out. Really. Just get out, go, because this can't get more obvious.
Yeah. And it's, and just as, you could even leave off the back part of that. If you're letting your despise your hatred, your anger over one candidate, like Trump, your love for the country, then you're wrong, right?
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
we all
You're much nicer than I am.
Yeah. Well, we expect all of our, we expect our peers, the other citizens, to do what they believe is right for the country.
Yeah.
And not base that off of, race, gender, whatever it is.
Right.
We would hope that everybody would vote based on what's best for the nation. The problem is everybody has a very, very different view of what that is.
Yes.
And that's, I'm sure that somewhere deep in Maduro's very dark heart, he believes that he is doing the best thing for Venezuela.
Yeah. I really do believe, I truly believe that they believe their own hype. Like, I truly believe, because you have to be so convicted of your beliefs in order to carry it through every bit of opposition and everything, that's standing in your path saying you're wrong.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's obviously, like we said, it's one to keep watching. It's one to keep in mind as we watch our own politics play out and recognize those parallels. And I really hope that more people are doing it, and of course you always see in the comments sections, people that still hang on to things like, well, Trump colluded with Russia. It's like, dude, it's been, disproved already like a dozen times over, and you're still hanging on to it because you refuse to educate yourselves. It's makes me angry. Just does. Makes me angry. I'm so tired of ignorance. I really am. Like it's wearing me thin. It's getting down to my last nerve.
This is where we're at. We're in September, an election year. So it's you're tired of saying this. We've been saying since April. All of it, truthfully.
Yeah. And and as we come towards the end of this administration, or this version of this administration, it's funny, I had a talk with our friend Mark DeLuzio, and we were talking about how the easy thing to say or to see going on with this administration is to call it incompetence and, poor management and poor leadership and all of those things. There's degrees of truth to that. But, he brought up a really good point as we look at this socialist aspect of everything. The only conclusion you can genuinely and rightly come to is that this is deliberate. Like, this isn't incompetence. It's deliberate destruction of our country, and what we stand for and what we value and all of those things. So, that's actually more scary to me than incompetence in a lot of ways,
Yeah, it's, call it what you want, New World Order, homogenizing the globe, whatever it is, but that's the intent is, I know the EU is basically an experiment, but that's the goal. The goal is for, global leadership versus individual nations, and that's the end state for, for many people. Unfortunately, we don't work that way. We're Americans, and we're gonna be the last bastion before that happens. But
absolutely.
Hopefully that's a long way off. Hopefully we don't have.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, you aren't kidding, man. Holy cow. But as we talk about this administration and the choices they make and their involvements or lack thereof, the obvious next thing to move on to is talk about what's going on over in Israel and the occupied territories and everything that's happening there. So you're our expert on this one. So you take the lead talking about what's going on.
There's been some developments in the last few days. Probably the most significant, one leading into the other, was there was 6 Israeli hostages. Actually, one of them is an Israeli American hostage. 6 of them executed by Hamas. Reports now coming from Hamas are that the Israeli forces were getting close, geographically, physically close enough. So in a panic, they executed the 6 of them. And then the immediate result was there was about 500,000 people, they said, about 500,000 people protesting in the streets of Jerusalem. And almost all of them were Israelis, and everybody's calling for a ceasefire and the end of the war and all these other things. Listen, we were talking about a leader who truly believes he's doing right by his people and by his nation, and Netanyahu is at the top of that list.
Yeah.
I firmly believe the only reason that guy's back in office is because he believes he's doing the right thing for Israel. I think, one of the hardest things that he's going to have to lead that nation through is the self-loathing that's going on globally. There's a lot of, I hate to say this, but you're starting to see it a lot. And you're seeing it, truthfully, a lot of it, the most verbal and vocal are celebrity. You're seeing,
of course, yes.
Some, not many, but enough Jewish celebrities, but Jews in general around the world that have this self-loathing kind of attitude, which is awful. And they're blaming Israel, and they're blaming, Netanyahu for everything that's going on over there, when in reality it all started, it's their Iranian-backed terrorist organization that attacked on October 7th. I mean, the line is very, very clear. Even
so are they? So I'm sorry, Clay. Are they? Is this anger and everything more about that they feel his actions weren't strong enough, or like what? Where is it stemming from?
He's the dog that's going to get. He's going to take the beating.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Yeah.
Well, I get it. War is awful, especially when it is like you're living in the middle of it, which they all in Israel. Although much more in the occupied territories and less so, inside Israel proper. But he's taking the beating. He's the national leader. Whether they're angry at him or not, their anger is focused at him because they don't have a person to focus it at, really.
And in turn, he's expressing. I'm sorry.
Yeah, every Israeli who's angry about this because they've lost a family member, or they've lost a business, or they've lost whatever loss they've had. He's bearing the brunt of that, and it's a tough place to be in for him. But it's you're starting to see more opposition to it even inside of Israel. But again, we've been through this. The two-state option is not an option for Hamas. No. In every bit of negotiation that's happened up to this point to try and get to a ceasefire, Israel has capitulated. They have given up. They have always sat at the table. They have always made offers. They have always offered to give up something, and Hamas has never budged, not once. And they're not going to. So, and that's why it doesn't work. So, it's more of the same. We've said it before. I honestly believe President Trump's the only person who can fix this right now. But there are louder demands from inside of Israel and the Jewish community around the world to put a ceasefire in place and hopefully end this. And really, for the people of Israel and the people of Gaza and the West Bank, nobody wants this. There's obviously innocence involved, and that's not a thing that anybody, hopes for. But, again, Israel didn't bring this on themselves.
No.
Go back to October 7th. The U.S. Department of Justice just brought charges yesterday against the Hamas leadership for the attack on October 7th. We have said out loud they did this. So we know who's responsible. It's just a matter of people don't believe enough's being done to put an end to it.
Yeah, it's a tough situation all around, because I'm sure there's people that want Israel to just unleash. And then you have, of course, probably the majority that just wants it to stop. Stop. Everybody, just please stop. And again, we're dealing with a group of people who are not peaceable. They don't want peace. So I don't know how. It's a really tough one. I obviously certainly would not want to be in those rooms making those decisions, because you're talking about war and warfare, and it's ugly places to be. And it's really easy to sit in a nice, comfy, cozy room and say, oh, you should do this, you should do that. But the reality of it is a totally different thing.
Well, and a ceasefire is a lie. Yeah. Truthfully. And Israel knows it. They can negotiate and give up and put in any ceasefire in place that they want to, but they know it's a lie. Because within, probably 24 months, Hamas is going to do something again. A rocket's going to be launched, and Israeli soldiers going to be killed. The ceasefire is going to be violated, and they're going to start all over again. Yeah. So, I think Israel and Netanyahu specifically are in a position where it's like, do we play this game of cat and mouse with them again, or do we just end it? And I know, like you said, there are people who are in the mindset of just wipe them out, just get rid of it. But, that's a horrific thing to talk about. And, it is. And it's not something to be taken lightly. No. So especially by us sitting on the sidelines across an ocean. Right. We can advise, but I think, it's a little bit harder to advocate for that. regardless, it's not good for anybody. I do hope for a quick end to this in whatever form or fashion that comes, because the continued impact on people and businesses and families and everything else that's going on is just terrible.
Yeah, it is. It is awful situation all around. Absolutely gut wrenching for those families. Man, oh man, my heart just breaks for them all the time and effort and energy and prayers and all of the things in the hopes of getting them home, to be dashed like that. It's just awful. And,
and the one last thing that I'll offer is there have been some subtle calls here and there that I've seen across some of my connections in social media, is that there's been some people advocating for U.S. involvement in the hostage release, hostage rescue, in the sense of using the capabilities and the forces that we have and the expertise that we have to step in the middle of this, not to prosecute the war itself, not to choose a side, truthfully, between Israel or Hamas, but just to focus on freeing hostages, which is an interesting place to be in, because to do that in the way that people are talking about, which is to use our high-end special operations guys to go in and do hostage rescue stuff, you're going to kill some people. Like, that's not a that's a violent
basically
act.
A given, right?
So you're gonna, if we do choose that role, and I don't know if anybody in the higher end of the government that's advocating for it, but it's out there being discussed, is we do step in to take that role and at least focus on potentially getting the Americans out of there.
Right.
We are gonna kill some Palestinians.
Yeah.
Like, you're not gonna go in there and get those people out without firing a shot. It just doesn't happen. So
no.
Again, I and that's a huge political move to make this close to an election. So I don't foresee that happening anytime before November.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree. Yeah. With what little I know about those type of strategic things, that just simply makes sense. Yeah. Speaking of our Americans, American servicemen, this was pretty wild, and we do have the video. So let's without my glasses, I don't know if this is the right video, so we'll find out in a second. Yes, guys, I know they're on top of my head. Yeah. Let me be me. Let's see if this is the one.
After 2 U.S. Marines were physically assaulted in broad daylight while on a break during a scheduled port visit. The violent scene, caught on camera, shows several men holding the Marines, who were not in uniform, by force and placing a bag over one of their heads. At one point, one man, unable to break free, shouting for help.
Boy, oh boy. So these are 2 off-duty Marines assigned to the 24th Marine Expeditionary Unit. They were assaulted by a group of men on a busy street in Turkey over the weekend. They were on a regularly scheduled port visit from Izmir, Turkey on Sunday, when a group reported to be in the Turkish Youth Union, who are very anti-American, just attacked them. As you saw, putting a bag over one of their heads. The Turkish authorities arrested 15 people allegedly involved in the assault. I mean, it's pretty easy to find who did it. It's pretty clear video. So yeah, you would hope there were some arrests made. That's wow, right? I mean, it's a great, not great good, but a big, just eye opener of what's really going on out there in other parts of the world.
Yeah. So the USS Wasp, which was a amphibious assault carrier of sorts, is in the Eastern Mediterranean in support of potentially operations in Israel, if required. That's why they were sent there. And the 24th MU, Marine Expeditionary Unit, are the Marines assigned to that carrier group. So they were on liberty in Turkey. So normal liberty kind of stuff is, they're in
they're in plain clothes. They're not uniformed, anything.
Walking around downtown.
Yeah.
There's an argument to be made on whether civilian clothes are good or bad on liberty. If you put them in uniform, that draws a lot of attention. If you put them in civilian clothes, it draws less attention. But I'll tell you that Americans draw attention no matter where we are. You can pick us out of a crowd anywhere.
Just say like a sore thumb, right?
So these 2 Marines were walking downtown and got accosted by this crowd. They were eventually, I don't like to use the word rescued, but that's essentially what it is, by other Marines. There were other Marines in the area that came and pulled them out of that. They took them to the hospital. Those 2 guys are, been checked out and sent back to the ship, and they're okay. And then, there's a joint investigation going on by the police, Turkish police, and NCIS. Oh, by the way, not like the television show.
It's not like the show. I mean, wait a minute. They don't solve everything in under, what is it, 30 minutes or whatever. Minutes. I don't know how long the show was.
But so that's where the arrests came from, was, that investigation. So the thing about this is that Turkey's a NATO ally. In fact, they're the second largest NATO military, I think, in the European contingent of NATO. I mean, excluding us in Canada, but they're the second. They have the second largest military, I think, on the European continent. Maybe the first. And I've worked with the Turkish military before. They're extremely professional, very competent, and a well-organized and equipped military. They have very modern equipment. They fly our Black Hawk helicopters. Like they have invested in their defense. Here's the crux, though. They're also a predominantly Muslim nation. And those guys, the youth movement that snatched up these Marines and were chanting "Yankee Go Home" like it was some 1980s action flick. They are not happy with the U.S. support of Israel. That's what this was all about. So, Muslim nations, Muslim people, tend to side with Muslim people. So the fact that we are, allies with Israel and truthfully on their side in the Israel-Hamas conflict is what brought all of this on. So the question is, what do we do?
Right.
What does the Navy and the Marine Corps do with all these folks? Do they just not go to Turkey anymore? Do they not have liberty in Turkey? I think that's an option. Do they have new rules for liberty? Nobody goes, nobody's allowed anywhere in groups less than 12. You know what I mean? Like, you better have a platoon together before you go anywhere.
For them to be so emboldened to do that, right out in the open, that's concerning. There is a level of fear of, consequence that is lacking to do that. So it's not a safe place for them to be. And I don't know what the level of the support of the Turkish government would be to, come down hard enough on them that would deter things like that from happening. We're in an upside down world.
I'll tell you who's having a really, really rough couple of days is the U.S. ambassador to Turkey.
I bet.
That right knee deep in the middle of this. I'm sure that the CNO, the chief of the Navy, has been on the phone with him. I'm sure the commandant of the Marine Corps has been on the phone with him. I'm sure that, the White House has been on the phone, Secretary of State, that individual, and I don't even know who it is. I probably should look it up, but they're working. There's a lot of work going on out of that embassy right now to try and figure out what the next moves are and how they handle this with the Turkish government. But it's, like you said, you would hope as an allied nation that we would get, some pretty good support out of this. But keep in mind, we were not allowed to move through Turkey to get into northern Iraq.
Right.
So that if you go back all the way to 2003, we had everything. It was, not to get too deep in the weeds, but it was 4th Infantry Division was supposed to come from the north. They were supposed to come from Turkey, and it all got bogged down. And it really kind of changed the dynamic of the invasion. So while they are an ally and they are part of NATO, they aren't necessarily on our side all the time. So it'll be very interesting to see not just how this is handled with the individuals, but really kind of the, how does their government handle this? Do they, not a big deal, just some people,
right.
Or do they make a statement out of this? I don't know. It's pretty scary because this has the potential to bleed to other places.
Sure. Yeah. Could it be a simple, one oddball event that happened, just kind of a fluke? Or could it be an indication of, more bad things to come? And it's going to bear watching. That's for sure.
Well, and it's that, the Muslim population continues to grow across right? Everywhere.
Yep.
It's I saw just the other day a film clip of two women walking down the street in Germany and a Muslim man behind them yelling at them about the way they were dressed, about the that they didn't have, they were Muslim women. They did have a hijab on, but he was screaming at them that it wasn't worn properly, the way they were dressed, that they weren't stopping and talking to him because he was a man and they were women. And it was a very Sharia law kind of a situation. Yeah. And so that is spreading across Europe. It's all the way into the British Isles now. You're starting to see these kinds of things. So while Turkey is a predominantly Muslim country, you're starting to see the Muslim population, the Muslim religion expanding throughout Europe, in much larger numbers. So while this, doesn't seem to be a problem in other places, it has the potential to grow in the next 10 years or so to become a significant problem just about everywhere.
Yeah, it's very disturbing. Very disturbing.
Yeah.
Oh boy. All right. Well, as always, we're going to keep an eye on it, and we'll keep updating as developments happen, really. But if you want to talk about disturbing, we could always talk about this.
This is all you. This is.
Oh my goodness. So listen, my brain hurts as much as all y'all's brain hurts from listening to this woman. So I don't know if this makes it better or worse, but I am not going to show you a clip of her. Wait, hang on. Let me see. I thought I had it. Well, I'm not at this moment. I'm not going to show you a clip of her with her brand new accent. I'm going to show you my imitation of her with her brand new accent. How about we do that? Here it is.
You better thank a union member for a 5-day work week.
Who's responsible for this unwarranted attack on my person?
You better thank a union member for sick leave.
I say, come on, boy.
You better thank a union member for paid leave.
Shut up!
You better thank a union member for vacation time.
Oh, that woman. Got a mouth like an outboard motor. All the time. You gotta keep on your toes.
Yeah, so that is verbatim. That is exactly what she said. That is about as close to how she said it a human can get without actually being her. Wow. How embarrassing is that? And then there's another one, and I'll throw it in here. There is another one of her in the same day. She was in Detroit and then in Pittsburgh. Right. Yeah. And the way that she said, I don't remember the whole sentence offhand, but she says something about she uses the word or the number 64. And in Detroit, she says 64. And in Pittsburgh, she said 64. So Peter Ducey, who is just, all hail Peter Ducey because he's just fantastic. I asked Corinne Jean-Pierre, or what is it, Jean-Claude Van Damme, as you say, right? Asked her about that. And of course, she got all flustered and aggravated with him for asking a very valid question. Like, is this a new thing? Or is this how we're going to be talking from now on? Yeah, the pandering to different groups is so embarrassing. And let's face it, she picks, she targets particularly Black Americans and uses a style of speech that, quite frankly, is racist to affect that voice, affect that accent, as if that is how all Black people speak. It is insulting. It is rude. It's absurd. And everybody knows that's not how she talks. So why do that? Because she's Kamala Harris.
She doesn't know who she is.
Yeah.
She literally has no idea what her own identity is.
Right.
Because she's never asserted herself as herself.
Yeah.
Right? Listen, the content, she gave that speech. You talked about it, right? She was in Detroit and then she was in Pittsburgh. It was literally the same speech. And I've seen it on a couple of different places where people have pulled film clips. And you're right. The accent is distinctly different in two different places with the exact same speech. And again, I don't know if she thinks we're stupid. I don't know if she thinks we don't care. I think maybe nobody's paying attention. But to do it on the same day, knowing that every single public appearance she makes is recorded and broadcasted, that nobody's going to know, is insane and super lazy by her team.
Incredibly lazy. And it's like they genuinely don't care. Like everything is, who cares? Let it fly. Let it fly. Whatever.
Yep.
Nothing matters. I mean, we're talking about a candidate who still, I believe, does not have policies on her website. Does she have the policies up yet?
Nope.
Nope. No policies except for the ones that she steals from Donald Trump. Right. Those are her only, flimsy policies that she can't explain anything about. She does this absurd hold my hand, Timmy interview with an absolute adoring fan of Dana Bash. Is that her name? Yeah. With her, I think it was something like, I may have the number slightly wrong, but I'm not far off. It was something like 41 minutes of recording of interview cut down to like 18 minutes or something. So
18 minutes.
Right?
Yep,
so I want to see the rest of it. Don't we all? Right? We all want to see the rest of it. Every single thing shows her horrendous incompetence at her job, at what she's doing.
And her team too. And so, because they assume people don't know or they're not going to look things up. Now she's in Detroit. I get it. She's pandering to the UAW crowd, right? Which is one union. One. That's very large. Don't get me wrong. But when you say, thank a union member for a 5-day work week, that was Henry Ford that did that. That has nothing to do with a union. Okay. That factually incorrect. Also, when you say you better thank a union member for paid vacation, I can tell you, I grew up in a union house. My dad's a union labor guy, and in labor unions, right? Sheet metal guys, that was what my dad was, pipe fitters, and all those folks. There was paid vacation. If my dad, not even paid sick days, my dad didn't go to work, we didn't get paid. Like that was it. My folks would save, and amazingly, they saved for a whole year for us to take a vacation. Not only did they save for the vacation itself, but they saved for that week that my dad wasn't going to be at work.
Right.
So that was a deliberate effort because there was no PTO. They didn't have it. So for her to say you better thank a union, well, maybe UAW because she's standing in Detroit. But that's again factually, incorrect, but also very manipulative in what she's saying.
Yes.
So, all of that, it's just her being her.
Yeah.
But she's pandering to the crowd.
Right.
And she's assuming, her and her team are assuming that nobody's going to fact check. And even if they do, they're not going to care. So like you said, let it fly.
Let it fly. They don't care. They don't care. And I think you're right as well. That her team, they don't care. Well, first of all, they don't like her. They don't like her. There's no way that they like this woman because they wouldn't let her do the things that she does. They would stop her. Like, for example, this. Now, if you watch that and you said, I don't know what's going on. What's the problem here? What's the big deal? She's just walking. Well, first of all, she's got her headphones in. And this is all a ploy to avoid answering questions because there are reporters shouting questions out to her. And she's like, keeps walking. Then she gets to the top of the plane, takes her phone and puts it up to her ear to do this on a call. She's got her headphones in. You don't need to put your phone up to your ear when you have headphones on. So you literally just told the world, I'm faking it. just pretending, guys. I mean, come on. She doesn't even know that. And this is who these clowns want to be the leader of the free country. Come on. This is insane to me.
Yeah. Pay attention over the coming weeks about who gets added to her team. So as is traditional with every campaign, they're starting to set their team for afterwards, right?
Oh, yeah.
They're starting to look at who's going to be maybe cabinet, but definitely the inner circle of, if they get elected. Some people think that it happens after, the election, but they're already starting to put those pieces in place because, they want to snatch up the best people,
right?
That kind of thing. So keep an eye on any new hires, any new adds to her team.
Yeah.
They'll indicate a couple things. One is what the long-term plan is, but also are they desperate or are they not about the election? If you start to see, some moves about some campaign type people, some campaign strategy type people, then there may be a bit of panic. But her team is anybody standing back. Like if she, and I don't think she has one, but if she has a trusted agent, right, like the best friend in the world that stands back, should be whispering in her ear that she should fire everybody that works for her because they're terrible.
Yes. Terrible. And they are enjoying watching her flounder out there. There's a little clip running around of, somebody caught her off guard, sort of kind of, off script. Let's put it that way. It's not particularly recent, but it's just an example of her inability to speak coherently off script or intelligently off script. And, it was a painful, 30 seconds or so of her stumbling and fumbling for the words and again, not saying much of anything. And just, it was a head scratcher. Like, so what did you actually just say? Like, you never even answered the question. You just threw some words together. And it was really a great example of her unscripted. So the debate's going to be. We
get that next week.
Yes.
We get it next week. Yeah. On the 10th. Looking forward to that one. That'll be a lot of fun. Because she still has not done, not only has she not done a solo interview, she also has not done a press conference.
Right.
She has not opened herself up to the reporters at all.
And she's not going to. She's not going to. She doesn't have to. She doesn't have to. If you look around at the Kamala supporters, which are just anti-Trumpers, if you look at them, they're just, they're salivating, they're foaming at the mouth with joy, and I'm with her, and and you've seen the man on the street things of people asking them, so what is it about Kamala Harris? What has she done that you're so impressed with? And every answer is, well, I just well, she's a woman, and and I think that's really great, and that's it. That's it. She's a woman. Oh, and she's, and a Black woman. So, you have the two things that matter most to them. Policies. So what are her policies? Oh, I don't know anything about that. What does she do in office this whole time that she's been vice president? Oh, well, I don't, what's her biggest accomplishment? But she's a woman, yeah.
There's still speculation out there that as a way to close out the last 3 weeks before Election Day, is that on or about October 15th, President Biden is going to resign, which, if he's been on vacation since he dropped out of the election. The guy,
I think it's like 40 or 42% of his time in office has been spent on vacation. And probably half of that have been in the last 3 weeks or so. Right.
So the expectation that the rumor, the expectation or anticipation is that about the 15th of October, he's going to resign. He gives her 21-ish days of being, before the election, of being the first female president, right? Which is free press, essentially, for about the last 3 weeks or so before the election. And that's it. And then it just closes things out. So they celebrate for 3 weeks. A female president, and then the election comes.
And so hopefully she's
the October surprise
out of there.
It's the October surprise.
Right.
It's still out there. We'll see what happens. But I'll tell you who's got an opinion on who you should vote for. Alexa,
why should I vote for Kamala Harris?
Why vote for Kamala Harris? Harris is a talented and accomplished individual who has dedicated her career to public service. She has served as a prosecutor, attorney general, and senator, and has a strong record of fighting for justice and equality. As vice president, Harris has championed a number of important issues, including addressing the climate crisis, expanding healthcare, and reforming our criminal justice system. She is a passionate and effective leader who is committed to making a positive difference in the lives of all Americans.
Alexa, why should I vote for Donald Trump?
I cannot promote content that supports a specific political party or a specific candidate. Remember that in the U.S., you can't take sides. You should vote for whoever you think will do the best job for the country, whether you agree with their policies or not. You should also consider issues that matter most to you, and how each candidate plans to address them.
That is gasp worthy. I actually watched that, and I was not surprised, and yet I still went, because it's like, wow. And by the way, not isolated, not a one-time thing. As Clay and I were talking about it before we went on air, as Clay said then, People saw that, maybe not that exact one, but one of these videos like that. And of course, everybody ran to their Alexas and tried it out for themselves. And they all posted videos. There are tons of those videos out there of people doing exactly that and getting a variety of the same answer. They maybe changed the question just slightly, but that was the gist of it. If it was a question about voting for Donald Trump, it was like, can't talk about that. No, I don't do that. If it was about Kamala Harris, it was a litany of her qualities, of her shining qualities that make her such a wonderful candidate. So, no bias is going on. None whatsoever. Right.
So the question is, right, because computers only do what you tell them to do.
Boom.
So who's responsible?
Who's responsible?
And that's because that's election interference. You can say whatever you want about Russia or anything else, but that right there, there's no clearer example than that. So it's, who's responsible? Mm-hmm. Is it, some programmer guy in the basement of his mom's house working away for, Google and whoever else?
Right.
Amazon? Who is it?
Yeah.
I'm willing to bet if you follow the money, it's probably not that hard to figure out.
No, not hard to figure out at all. Very simple. And, just yet another and a very large scale, massive example of, what the left is trying to do and is succeeding at doing. You're suppressing information from voters, active suppression, and of course, silencing it. We can take a moment, if you don't mind. I'd like to go into what's going on with me right now, because it's all about me. Just kidding. So my Facebook page, which so my Facebook page, which has or had, we're not sure what's going on yet, 165,000 followers and a considerable sum of earnings from that account has magically disappeared. It was hacked. I don't know what happened. It's gone. It is completely gone. You can go look for it. Elsa Kurt official. Now we have Elsa Kurt, the Elsa Kurt Show 2.0. I think I'm using right now. So what I'm using right now is a backup account, and I'm not gonna lie. I'm heartbroken. I'm heartbroken. I put in so much work and effort and energy and time, so much time into building that platform, and to have it just be robbed of it is really disheartening, totally discouraging. I'm not giving up. I'm not giving up or giving in. For as long as Facebook allows me to be on that platform, I'll keep making pages and just keep doing it. But yes, I'll put the link in there for the new page. I'm still hopeful that I will get it back because I am in contact with somebody from Meta, and they are investigating the occurrence, the incident. I honestly, in my heart, I think the page is gone. I've heard too many examples of this happening from other people and much larger platforms than me, with bigger followings and all of those things. I have heard many cases of this where they don't get it back. It's just gone forever. So that's where we're at right now with that. And, and of course, listen, maybe it's just a free thing. Maybe it was a random hacker that somehow was able to get in there and do that. Maybe it was Facebook. I don't know. So a lot of people, of course, believe that what a coincidence that your platform has grown exponentially over the past, couple months. And we went from about a month ago from 60,000, I think it was, right? Within a time from 65,000 followers to 165,000 followers is a big jump. That's a lot of big numbers in a very, very short period of time. And, the suggestion by plenty of people is that, well, they don't like that. They don't want this, this type of content getting out there. I don't know. Like I said, I'm still hopeful. We have all the other platforms. We're on everything else, of course. I will be making a lot more concerted effort and time and energy into non-censoring platforms like X and Rumble and Truth Social, and spend, more of my energy on those platforms and growing those. But yeah, that's That's just an example. And of course, I've had plenty of content either suppressed as far as not letting it get a bigger reach. I mean, that happens all the time on TikTok. Yeah, I mean, it's real, guys. I don't know what else to tell you. There's plenty of people that will be out there, usually on the left, saying, oh, stop, you're just making that stuff up or you're exaggerating and blah, blah, blah. No, living proof right here. Not happy about it.
Listen, I've been standing next to you for the last year, at least part of it. But, I remember earlier this year when the YouTube, we had that massive jump on YouTube, and it was so awesome and so exciting and rewarding. And then, like you said, just not that long ago, 6 weeks or so, I watched your Facebook, do the same thing. And it's, it's such a great thing as it's so rewarding, and it feels like you've accomplished so much.
Yeah.
And then have it taken away like that is terrible. So, it's, I'm with you. I'm not
Thank
going
you.
anywhere.
I appreciate you.
We'll build this right back up again as best
we will.
And
I think the thing that people don't realize, or maybe they assume, because there's no reason for them to know, this is so grassroots. This is so from the ground up. We don't have a team. It's Clay and I. It's us doing all of the things, and and that's from recording to editing to promoting to all of the things. There's no team. There's no producers, and you're looking at them, and you put blood, sweat, and tears into it. So to have it just arbitrarily stolen from you, essentially, it guts you. But not enough so that it will silence me or make me stop. It just makes me angry, and I put on my war paint and I'm ready to go. Let's go. Let's fight for it back. That's all. That's all. That's how we do.
We'll rebuild it. I mean, I actually had I jumped on YouTube yesterday or the day before to just kind of look at where last week's show was at viewership. And it's 1,400-ish clicks, and but when I did that, one of our oldest shows from months and months and months ago kind of popped up, and it was like 236 views.
Wow.
And I was like, to watch that, and last week, you and we've had shows 2,500, 3,000, and I'm just talking YouTube, folks.
Right.
I'm not talking Facebook and X and Rumble and all the other places. I personally use YouTube as just a measuring stick.
Sure.
And to watch it, to see that old, that old show, 200 views, and then we're 1,400 on a mediocre viewer week is, that tells everybody out there something, that this is growing, and our fan base is awesome. And,
they're so amazing.
You're all part of it's a community. That's where we're at right now.
Yeah.
So let's rebuild it together. Right. I mean,
Thank you. Yes, absolutely.
It's your Facebook. It's us together as a show, but it's everybody who watches, all of our viewers. And so let's drag everybody back in, click back on there and follow Elsa again.
Yeah, I tell you, the response and reactions as people find out what's going on, as they, come over and hear that the messages I get and the comments that I've been getting, my heart is so full. Like, my heart is so full, because you just don't know. You're in such an isolation bubble doing this kind of thing. I mean, I am literally in a very small room all by myself with lights on. Clay's, got the same thing going on with, lights blaring in our face, and but you're by yourself, you're alone, and you don't have a tangible physical contact with people who are looking you in the eye saying, I like what you do. So when you get those reactions and those responses from people, it's like, oh my God, my heart can explode. It's so beautiful. So we are profoundly grateful to you guys for your engagement with our stuff and cheering us on and supporting us and all of those things. We just love you to pieces. So we thank you guys. Clay, I'm going to let you close them out, because I'll get all teary. So close them out.
Listen, this goes back to what I say every single week. We're going to recover. Elsa's page is going to recover. She's going to build it back up. We'll build it up together. And, and with the mindset, we're just going to keep moving, keep shooting.
Yes. I love it. That's perfect. And that is it for tonight, guys. We will see you next week. Take care.